So how does a daughter deal with the emotionally irresponsive father? And also, how does she deal with the fact that I can't hug my dad? We can't play. He's so statue-like, and there's too much fear and stature around that role, daddy, that when we were growing up that we could jump and play is no more. How does a daughter deal with that? It's a very complex matter because there are two dimensions. The young daughter that has come back home excited, I want to hug my dad, and the dad that never experienced that type of expressive emotion and contact. So for him, it doesn't exist. He doesn't know it. And even if it is suggested to him, the first challenge is that he looks at it from a very alien and women view. The second thing, that even though he begins to want to, even though he agrees, he's shy. So he has a combination of two things that he doesn't know how to deal with: the history and the way he was brought up, and the fact that he's shy. He can't, I should hug that, okay. Then he will just do on the side like this, or give you a handshake. And then it's awkward. And so what happens, and the daughter just retracts and it never happens again. I'll just go, good afternoon, daddy, or good evening, or with the biggest excitement, you're gone to mommy or you're gone to somebody else. Well, it's a very, very dynamic issue. But the daughter must realize that it's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't want to hug you. It's not that I don't see you. It's just that I have not come to learn that love language or expression yet. And probably it needs to be discussed and agreed to say, okay, is it possible that we begin a gradual process of this if the relationship is that open where you can have that kind of conversation? Because the daughter wants it. If she's old enough, then she can initiate it. If she's mature enough, she can initiate, oh, dad, why don't you, or, maybe not why don't you, maybe is hugging something that is possible? And then the father too begins to consider it, but the conversation needs to happen. Because the reaction, if you get a reaction where I hugged you and you were stiff, like a statue, I'm not going to come back. I remember the reaction. We don't have to say anything. I remember the reaction. And that thing can scar. Because it's not just the fact that he didn't hug me. It's the interpretation that the girl gives to it. Is that was rejection. Am I not good enough? Maybe he doesn't like me. The interpretations that it's not left to the father. And because they don't talk, there are things nobody has talked about it. But you just know there is an unwritten rule. Don't hug daddy. Hug mommy. It's not because it's those it's a conversation that if both of them, if the girl is mature enough and still wants that emotional connection with the father at that level, then talk about it. If both of them are, and if the father is not too shy to deal with that. The other dimension is that the father may not see that as part of his duty. He doesn't interpret loving you from that connection. He sees it purely from provision. He sees it from protection. He sees it from guidance. So he talks to you firm and stern and he thinks, I've loved you. But the interpretation and the language the girl wants is, hold me, daddy. So that's another dimension that many times, about my age and older, we'll talk about love first from function, provision, status, before we talk about it in terms of joy, happiness, and all the other fun parts. That sounds secondary. So what he has termed secondary or even tertiary for you is primary. So you can see that different expectations that need to then come together. But the daughter will also need to take the initiative as she's older to, because you want to develop a long-term relationship, to then engage on that. And then it can also start from, oh, dad, can I help you shave your hair? Or can I help you dye your hair? Or can I help you, do some personal things for him? Can I help you trim your nails? So that there's some contact. And so it's easier. You're not alien and you feel very spooky